And you spoke about that loneliness and that feeling of not feeling worthy. I completely know how you feel about that, because every time I was going into a new environment, every time I was going into a birthday hall, a wedding hall, I felt as if I was so nervous, so subconscious about, so conscious about how people will perceive me when I walk in, how people would judge me. And it was really, really scary. And you spoke about that self-worth thing, and it makes me think, yeah, we went through childhood questioning that a lot. My self-worth, am I good enough? It's always this question about, am I good enough? Am I good enough? But now I think, good enough for who? Am I good enough for who? Who am I comparing myself to? Am I comparing myself to that other person who doesn't have neurofibromatosis? You know, I used to think about going into a wedding hall. I used to see all these people with their fancy hair and all their beard, nicely cut beard. And I used to envy that. I used to envy someone having symmetrical beard, thinking, oh, I wish I could do my beard like that. It would look so great. But we can't change the fact that we've got neurofibromatosis.
No.
We can change our mindset. I always come back to that. And you're doing some fantastic work now. Tell me a little bit about the work you're doing now.
So I decided one day I found my voice. We'll talk about the restaurant experience at some point.
We'll come to that.
But I finally had a platform, and I now say to people, just tell one person your story. I didn't know where to begin, so I started talking into my phone on my morning walks, and I started to leave inspiring messages, set people up for the day, talking about my own story. And it's just amazing how it's just grown. I've been thinking a lot about storytelling lately. And there's a fantastic South African author called Antjie Krog, who wrote a book called The Country of My Skull. Her quote says, "The only way to bear the unbearable is to tell it. So the only way to bear the unbearable is to tell it. The only way that I can now make sense of the trauma and the hardship that I've been through, to find meaning in that, is to tell other people my story." So I say on my morning walks, I say, just tell one person your story. You do not know the impact it will have. Just this week, having posted an inspiring message on Instagram, they called it inspiring, not me. Somebody wrote to me and said that they had thought about ending their life on Tuesday night. But because of what they had seen, they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. And it was just amazing. Really, really powerful.
That's really powerful. No, thank you for doing what you're doing, Oliver. You briefly touched on it, and I was going to ask you about it, and I know it can bring back some pain and trauma. So I will try and be as sensitive as I can when I ask you this question. But 1 year ago, when I first heard about you, it was through the news, and I saw in the news this horrific thing that was done to you, and nobody deserves to be treated like that. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. But what happened to you was terrible. Please tell us a little bit about what happened, how it happened.
So as you know, people with neurofibromatosis have many episodes of care. They have many visits to hospital. And last year, in the late summer of last year, I was an inpatient at King's College Hospital to have that shunt inserted that I referred to earlier. I had been there for about 2 weeks, and I was growing very wary of hospitals, and I was becoming institutionalized, and I was tired of hospital food. So I asked the ward sister if I could go for a walk into the local town center, which I did, and she allowed me to do that. And I browsed the restaurants, and I found a place that appealed to me, and I went inside, and a sign on their counter said cash only. That should have been my first red flag. Anyway, I went outside, and I went to draw the money from the cash machine. I went back inside, and I placed an order, or at least I tried to. And the gentleman said, "Please leave. There have been complaints about you."
There have been complaints?
Yeah, that I'm very scary looking. I should please leave. So
was this a cafe or a restaurant, or, I mean?
It was a restaurant, and because of where it is, if I drop too many clues, people
please.
might find it. And you and I agree that we won't name the places that have offended us.
No.
It's not about them, right?
Was there a lot of people inside the restaurant?
There were about 2 people, patrons, who were so engrossed in their meals that the complaints couldn't have come from them.
How many staff members were inside?
There were about 3 or 4, but the people that spoke to me were the gentleman behind the counter and probably somebody who looked like a manager. And I asked him to repeat himself, and he said, "Please leave. You're scary."
Is that exactly what he said?
Yes. There have been complaints about you. You're scaring the customers.
Wow.